Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Friday edition of On Cue as we are coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game studios. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We got about an hour plus to play with on this What the Frig Friday edition, a Football Friday edition of On Cue. Hope everyone had a wonderful Sports Thursday, except if you're a Sixers fan hearing that crap today on this Friday, the 6th of February, 2026. Very easy to do to get in on the conversation. As I mentioned, get social with me at Rich Q on Q on X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. If you like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'd certainly be doing me a solid. We are on Kicks, Rumble, YouTube, other multiple platforms, millions.co as well, and very easy. And I said, it's just a click away. AUDACY app, search Coastal Sports Digital Network, and that's where you'll find On Cue Monday to Friday. So as we put to bed another week of sports talk, a lot has transpired over the last 24 to 48 hours. The NBA trade deadline has come and gone. Daryl Morey, the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers, spoke earlier today. And I'll tell you this, if you happen to listen to the press conference. Now, that's all I'm saying. If you happen to listen to the press conference, you needed a shower. You needed a shower afterwards. You needed a shower afterwards. I mean, what a used car salesman. What a snake oil salesman Daryl Morey is. 76ers GM. We'll get into that. Stafford MVP, Drake Maye on the outside looking in, maybe because of one podcaster's vote, go friggin' figure. And then obviously Sunday, the big game, Super Bowl, the Pats and Seattle. The line's kind of sitting pretty where it's at. I've got some thoughts early on this game. Lloyd and I dropped a new edition of BYP that is out on the YouTube channel. That is also out on multiple platforms as well. So you can check that out. We gave our thoughts, our props, our predictions, our picks, our plays, a lot that we dived into on this Football Friday edition. It's a What the Frig Friday. So what made you say what the frig in the world of sports? And I thought, listen, the NBA trade deadline took center stage over the last 24, 72 hours. We're going to get into the NBA. We're going to get into the Philadelphia 76ers. NFL honors, as I mentioned, last night, kind of, to chalk Matthew Stafford winning the MVP, Mike Vrabel, head coach of the year, Myles Garrett, defensive player of the year, JSN, offensive player of the year. And I know that everyone's kind of up in arms today because of the vote or two by a podcaster or other voters for Justin Herbert, the Chargers quarterback, and how he had to basically just carry Drek going forward this season. Hall of Fame also announced new participants. I'm telling you right now, the Hall of Fame to me, this is what just absolutely aggravates the hell out of me, which we're going to get into a lot today. It just makes no sense. Some of the players that are going to be enshrined in Canton, the majority of these players deserve their day in the sun. They do. The majority of these players deserve their day in the sun. But some of these other players that we're going to sit and we're going to canonize and we're going to give the gold jacket, I'm thinking to myself, are you frigging kidding me? I mean, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense that we're voting and we're allowing some of these players in. Now, you want to sit there and tell me Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer? Of course. Larry Fitzgerald, Adam Vinatieri, yeah. But Luke Kuechly? I mean, I'm sorry. What are we doing here? So I've got some thoughts on that as well. Because again, it just does not make sense to me at all. So we're going to crank it up. We're going to get to your comments. We got the MVP. We got Stafford. We got, voters basically going in a different direction, kind of screwing Drake Maye. You have the game on Sunday, Seattle and New England. We got the NBA trade deadline, which is come and gone. We've got the Sixers and their GM speaking today, which I'm telling you, dirty. We'll tap into a little NBA. We'll go heavy on the NFL. We got our annual player props, Q's player props for the big game for the Super Bowl. We will dive into that as well. Lloyd Vance in about 40. You out there as always. But as I mentioned, keep it locked in. Very busy show. Quick timeout, 30-second break. We come back. We roll on first hour of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Pliable in Belmar and Play It Again Sports, 2 locations, 1450 Clemens Ridge Road, Defford, and of course in Mount Laurel. All right, just cranking up on a Friday edition On Cue, our last football Friday of the season. Oh my God, it's depressing. It's absolutely depressing. But we will dive heavy into the NFL, heavy into the Super Bowl, the Hall of Fame. But I want to get into a little NBA because, as I mentioned, 76ers GM Daryl Morey spoke today, and what a crock of shit was coming out of his mouth. I mean, unbelievable, the nonsense. All right, keep it locked in. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, 25 after the 3 o'clock hour on a Football Friday edition of On Cue. As I mentioned, we got a lot to play with today and unpack our final Football Friday. What the Frig Friday edition of On Cue. Oh, it's sad. It saddens me. We'll get to the big game. We'll get to your thoughts on the MVP. I do want to talk a little bit. Obviously, the NBA trade deadline has come and gone. We got plenty of time for the NFL guys, so just hang tight, please. But I did listen to Sixers GM Daryl Morey earlier today. And let me just tell you what an absolute disgrace of an individual. Seriously, a disgrace that this guy is. It's embarrassing to listen to this clown actually talk. It really is. I mean, are you actually, if you sit there and you listen to the words that come out of this guy's mouth, what a joke. What a joke. This guy's saying shit he actually believes. I'm listening to his press conference and I'm saying to myself, what are you doing? Why are you trying to get another one over on the fan base? If you heard that freaking disgrace of a presser and you're buying anything that used car salesman is selling you, you need to get your friggin' head examined. I'm telling you, I felt dirty. I needed a shower afterwards. To listen what some of these guys have to say. They think fans are stupid. They do. Some of these GMs and owners really think the fan base is stupid. This guy is a joke. You trade away talent. You didn't even get a deal done to help the team. I mean, it makes no sense. And you're also turning around, you're throwing the kid that basically you just jettisoned, you're throwing him under the bus talking about his value. I'm telling you, the fact that they hired this man is a flat out disgrace. The head coach, disgrace. The GM, disgrace. The owner, disgrace. He made no sense. He made no sense. He basically admitted. He admitted you got to go to ownership and recommend a move for them to decide on whether it's going to help the team. So, as much as I'm killing him, that's also on the owner, Josh Harris, who needs to sell the team and not worry about the... Go play with Washington and the Commanders and your friggin' logo and your vision. Oh, my God. I mean, wow. I don't like sitting here saying that a person is a liar. Let's just say he's not telling the truth. Is that okay? He's not telling the truth. I mean, it just, you can't sit up there and talking about these moves, and the big move was McCain because you're playing so well and you're trying to upgrade the team. You subtracted team. How well did your bench shoot last night? How well did your shooters actually shoot last night from beyond the arc in a loss against the Lakers? And you're basically now, you're saying you sold this kid high? I mean, you're in essence throwing the kid under the bus. You really are. You're taking a shot at him. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I didn't like when Woody Johnson opened up his mouth and basically ripped Justin Fields. Like, I found that in poor taste. I don't think you do that. And I certainly don't need a GM who's basically throwing a kid under a bus that's no longer with the franchise. The whole thing reeks. The whole thing reeks. I mean, what did we learn over the last 24, 48 hours? You know, Giannis was all talk. All talk. All these feelers out there. All these feelers. Minnesota, Miami, Golden State, the Knicks. And then it turns out Milwaukee's like, man, shut up. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. You know, it's all talk, talk, talk. Same thing with the Sixers. Maury, talk, 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 talk. And you got exactly what you wanted. You got a presser, which was a disgrace. Which was the fact that you need approval. You got to go to ownership so they can decide on a move. Tells you everything you need to know. Listen, the GM has to take the hits. No doubt. No doubt. But you got a friggin' billionaire owner, okay, that's got a boatload of friggin' teams at his disposal just for shits and giggles. And he's more worried about saving tax money than friggin' winning. That's a disgrace. That is a disgrace. I mean, and then you turn around, you're sitting there saying that you sold Jarrett McCain high. You know, you sold high on him at the trade deadline. What a jackass this guy is. I mean, it's actually, as much as I've criticized Embiid over the last several years, and I said they should have traded him several years ago, if I'm Embiid right now, I want the hell to get out of here, man. I want to get out of here. It's just, like I said, it's just, you cannot, for the life of me, tell me you can stand up there. You stand up there. I had people arguing with me on social the other day. You're overstating this. You're overvaluing this. You're talking out of your ass. Correction, correction, correction. What did the bench do last night? What did they do last night against the Lakers? How did they shoot? How poorly did they shoot? Where was the production? And you just jettisoned a player that gives you that production. And then you're going to stand up there and you're going to act as though it was the best move for the team? Stop. Stop. Enough is enough. End the nonsense. Seriously. End the nonsense. And I told you, I'm not even a Sixers fan. If this was the Knicks, I would be beside myself. I would be going off. I told you last year when they blew that lead to Indiana what was going to happen. And everyone said it was an overreaction. It was an instant reaction. It was an overreaction by me. It was, hot take muffins. Here we go. What did I say? If they lose the freaking series, it's a fireable offense. They fired the head coach. Well, now the fact that we're selling pieces. We're trading players. Why? So we can get under a luxury tax because we think we're going to make another move. That's how we've positioned it, and we've thrown it to the media. And some of these other weak-ass beat reporters and writers that cover the Sixers, you're all a bunch of friggin' cowards because you're not going after this man. You're not demanding answers. You're not asking the tough questions. You're not basically calling out his bullshit. So he's going to look in front of the camera, talk about a passionate fan base in the city of brotherly love and the Philadelphia 76ers and the Philadelphia fans. And you're going to try to what? You're going to try to sell me swampland in Florida at 2 a.m.? That's what you're trying to do. That's exactly what you're trying to do. You didn't make the team better. It's not even about trading. It's about, I'm telling you as a GM, we're doing this because we're going to set it up for bigger and better things. And then what happens at the deadline? Nothing. Crickets. Crickets. You weren't going to land Giannis. Everyone knows that. So don't even throw it out there. You decided to hedge. You thought you were going to hedge. You were talking to the blonde, but you wanted to go for the brunette. That's exactly what you did. And it blew up in your face. He's a disgrace of a GM. He really is. And that owner is a disgrace too. Really. If you don't care about the franchise and you don't care about the players and you don't care about the fans, yes, it's a business. They're billionaires. They're making money. I totally understand all of that. All of that. But I'm telling you right now, at the end of the day, what's the goal? I understand these guys are billionaires. I understand they have money, but there's also an ego involved in this. There's an ego. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the bottom line, the P&L, profit and loss. Okay, the overhead, the margins. Did we turn a profit? Yes, yes, yes. But don't you want to win? Don't you want to win? Isn't that, the bragging rights? These owners are billionaires, man. They come from generational money. A lot of them. It's a rarity where they're self-made. Some of them have been spoon-fed their entire friggin' life. And now you have an opportunity to appease the fan base because ultimately they are the ones showing up supporting the product. I mean, it was already a bad look with a guy like Josh Harris. Because why? He's got stake. He's got equity in the Washington Commanders. Oh, by the way, NFC East. Oh, by the way, one of their rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles. I just thought it was a poor look. I really did. I mean, look what's going on right now. The Flyers always stink, right? The Phillies didn't do diddly. The Eagles are imploding, and the Sixers just trade away young talent. I mean, you guys might need a little shot of Three Brooks. Not good. Not good for you guys. Not good for a lot of people if you're a Philadelphia fan, right? Man chimes in. Yes, correct. Little snake oil salesman throwing the tool around, no doubt. New headphones, who this? AKA He 12 Man, AKA Heisman, AKA Steeler Nation, AKA Duval, also affectionately known as Vince. Some people, I wish we had a Football Friday to celebrate, but the season unfortunately is over. Who said? This is a Football Friday edition, right? This is a Football Friday. We're going to get into the Hall of Fame too. Pretty sure Kuechly was first ballot, so they picked him over Kraft or Brady, but it wasn't personal, my ass. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your sentiments exactly, right? Seriously. I mean, imagine when it's time for Brady. You know they're going to screw Brady just to screw him. You and I both know that. Process is bad. Jovan chimes in. That was a disastrous press conference. He said a whole bunch of nothing. It made no sense. He rambled, and it should show the fans. The other thing is, when you get to this point with a franchise, and this is the fine line we try to walk as fans. As much as we say, I'm out, I'm out, I'm tapping out, that's it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. The hell with this franchise, not happening. We really don't. I mean, we're suckers. Let's be honest. This is what we do because we're fans and we're loyal to a fault. That's the problem. That's the problem. We're loyal to a fault. Yeah, do I mock my Giants and say I'm going out there fishing when their season ends in October? Yeah. But of course, I got a little peekaboo. I got a little eye to the game. I got a little ear to the grindstone. I'm still watching. I'm watching preseason football. I'm watching repeats in the summertime because I can't get enough. Loyal to a fault. Loyal to a fault. So when does it become enough is enough as a fan? Like, what is really the message that fans can send to ownerships? Get rid of this guy. We're not showing up anymore. Go shove your merchandise up your you know what. Like, when is enough is enough? And I feel as though we get to that point. I think a couple guys pointed out yesterday about the relationship where you got to walk away. But we're fans. Like, for some reason, it's like a toxic relationship. We know she's a little loca. We know a little cray cray going on, but we love her. Can't get enough of her. You know, we want her to put the cuckoo back in the clock, but sometimes we love it. You know, it turns us on. A little juice, a little passion. I feel that way with fans. Like, when you say enough is enough, I'm not going to support this product anymore until you make a change. It's like you need this, major overhaul, this revolt. And it oftentimes, it never happens. It never happens. But the one thing to learn out of all this, sports, cynical, man. It's cynical. You can turn a fan base off like that. You really can. You can turn a fan base off so quickly. I don't mind if someone's in over their head. I don't mind if someone's not good at their job because maybe they shouldn't have been hired in the first place. I don't mind if you make mistakes. But what I can't tolerate in doing this, because I've had battles with people for years. I've had battles with GMs. I've had battles with teams, franchises that wanted to pull my credential. Yeah, I don't like liars. And I'm not saying you have to be 100% fully transparent and peel back the curtain because some things need not be said. But if I'm sitting up there and I'm covering a press conference and I know for a fact you are full of shit, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out. And if my credential gets revoked, if it gets pulled, so be it. So be it. I think there was maybe one beat guy that actually called out the BS today. And you need more media guys, media people that have that media acumen that they don't care. Like, show some stones and onions. Call out the BS. That's your job. Your job is not to collect the check, cash the check. Sit there and say, well, hold on a second. Your moves, did it have anything to do with the franchise player? Hey, oh, by the way, how much of a setback is the Paul George issue? Suspended for 25 games. You talked about making a big move. This is the move you made, but then last night, the bench did nothing, 3-point shooting. Does this move seem to come back and bite you in the face, bite you in the ass? Okay, how close were you getting Giannis? What was really going to be the big move? What's the mindset going forward in a wide open Eastern Conference? Like, dig. And don't be worried about the pushback. And fans, you got every right to be pissed off. You do. You have every right to be pissed off because ultimately it's your money. It's your time. It's one of the reasons I got so aggravated with the Giants over the years. Because it's such a bad product that I found myself, and I got through this younger as fans. When we're younger fans, we live and die by our team's result. I mean, it's just, it's like a rite of passage. You come out of the womb, you're playing catch with your old man in the backyard, and you're watching basketball with him. You're watching football. You're watching baseball. Here, son, this is who I root for. This is going to who you root for. And here we go. You're off and running, and your heart gets broken. Your heart gets broken when you're a young sports fan because you think, oh my God, I'm never going to win. I'm never going to experience that thrill. I can't believe my favorite player retired. He got hurt. They traded him. I hate this team. I hate this sport. You want to take your ball and you want to run away. You want to go off the sandlot. I get it. We've all been there. But then as you grow and mature, you kind of start to realize, yeah, I'm not going to win and I'm not going to, live and die by every loss. I'm not going to do that anymore. There's bigger, more important things in life. I'm going to try to enjoy the game. Knowing if they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. But then it gets to the point where if it's such a bad product and they're not even competitive, as a fan, you are wasting your time. You are wasting your energy. You are. You're draining yourself. So I say all that. If you're a Sixers fan, you almost saw a little glimmer, a little hope, a little light at the end of the tunnel. A little bit, especially in a wide open Eastern Conference. And it is wide open. It is. And I'm telling you right now, man, I got to do a pivot. I got to do a pivot here with the bearded one. James Harden called it. He said this guy's a snake. Does this guy actually sit there? Does Daryl Morey actually sit there in front of a camera and the shit and nonsense coming out of his mouth? Does he really believe the media and the fans are going to believe that? Maybe some of the media won't push back, but does he really, to a man, in his heart of hearts, believe that the fans walk away saying, yeah, this guy's being fully transparent? I believe what this guy's saying. Ha! Are you kidding me? I'm telling you, this is Eric Estrada. Go sell me some friggin' swampland in Tallahassee at 2 a.m. I got a bridge to sell you. If you are, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Period. If folks were excited about the team before, the same group that they're excited before is going out there, obviously save Jarrett. Quite confident the Sixers sold high on McCain. Q, I can't get over this. Excellent mono. You're on fire today. What a BS organization. AA. Sixers Adam chiming in. I just don't, again, it's just, if you're actually trying to make a trade, okay, just hear me out real quick. If you're actually trying to make a trade, you have the deal in place, quote, before you start dealing away players. Then you kind of don't deal a player and then see if anyone actually wants to, quote, assets. Let's just call it for what it is. And some of these beat guys, again, I don't want to pile on you, but oh my God, you are just cowards. Cowards trying to come at me. Trying to come at me for sitting there saying I was off my rocker because I was saying that he did this to just, dodge the tax, dodge the tax. That's all. The McCain was to, dump him, dodge the tax, pure and simple. And you guys were trying to come at me and stoke a fire. You kidding me? You on this guy's payroll? I'm not going to be mad at you. I just want to know. Quentin Grimes took 2 shots last night, 27 minutes. Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know. Watch McCain become one of the better shooters in OKC. Coach understands what he brings to the table. What is gravity as a shoot? Yeah, I think the kid's going to be, he is going to turn around and be an all-star eventually. Maxey looked devastated when he spoke before last night's game. They all found out he was traded on the team bus. Yeah, I mean, it's just, bad. Vince chimes in. Q, I think you're overestimating the number of owners that are interested in actually winning a championship and not just increasing the bottom line. End of the day, we're talking about billionaires. Your point is 100% accurate. Your point is 100% accurate. It really is. It really is. And like I said, the problem is owners don't care. They just don't care. 348. All right. A lot of NBA, a lot of NFL. We got the player props lined up later on in the show for those that know how to friggin' read the room and you know who you are. The whack-a-moles, the Punxsutawney Phils, get out of here until 4:30-ish. But we'll get into the NFL. Got a lot more comments coming in. Stafford MVP. You guys okay with that? How about the one knucklehead that voted for Justin Herbert? The Hall of Fame is getting watered down. And I will tell you, on the other side, I'm going to lay it out for you, and I have a feeling you guys are going to come at me, and that's okay. I'm going to lay it out for you. I'm going to lay it out, and I'm going to tell you why I would say 7:30-ish come Sunday Eastern time, you guys are going to be flipping the dial. All right, Lloyd's going to join us in about 15. Keep it locked in. Friday edition on Q. All right, fast approaching 4 o'clock hour, Football Friday edition of On Q, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon. CJ chimes in. Q, this has always been Maury's problem, though. He doesn't look at the players like humans. He sees them as just numbers. Excellent points. Yes, everything you're saying is 100% correct. And as I mentioned, and I think a lot of you guys understand, I used the analogy when we were kids. We grew up living and dying with our team, wins and losses. But the problem now is the owners don't give a shit. So why should the fans? Why should the fans? I mean, it bugs the hell out of me. It really does. You know, you try to be, when you come on the mic, you try to be objective as possible. When I turn off the mic, sure, I'm passionate about my teams. You guys already know the lay of land with that. But I'm also trying to be fair here. And I need owners, and I understand they're millionaires and billionaires, and ultimately it is P&L, like Vince mentioned. You know, Tom said, Q, at the end of the day, it is the bottom line, brother. I understand all of that. But you also have to remember, too, who's going to games? You're creating generational, lifelong fans. I bet you if you kind of did a straw poll, and we're talking about the fans, the listeners and the viewers right now, all diehard sports fans that tune into the show. All diehard sports fans that have tuned in to me for 20 plus years. You guys have followed, a lot of you guys have followed me all over the place and on the dial. And every story begins when my dad took me to a game, when we played catch, when we were in the backyard, when we flipped on the tube. That's how you became a fan. So you're talking 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And now those guys have kids who might have kids, and you're all going to these games. You're all trying to support the team. Well, try to explain to a 7, 8, 9, or 10 or 12-year-old, yeah, by the way, daddy, how come there's not a lot of fans here? Well, the product stinks. The players don't care. The owners don't care, son. They don't give a crap, right? Like in the Great Line in A Bronx Tale, you think Mickey Mantle cares about your rent? I mean, that's the bottom line. That is the bottom line, man. This is not like gotcha. It's just a reality. It's just a reality. These players make an enormous, just ridiculous amount of money. These billionaires are turning over profit hand and fist. But what happened? Maybe I'm in fantasy world. Maybe I'm too sentimental. But whatever happened to wanting to win? Winning, right? And the problem is the GM, who I think needs to go, is covering for the owner, who does not care. Philly, I'm speaking to you. Josh Harris does not care about you. He doesn't. He doesn't care. He just doesn't. He's counting his coin. He doesn't care if you buy a jersey, if you turn on the TV, if you go to a game, if you drive, you put gas in the car to go to a game, you put gas in the car to drive, to go to the game, to buy merchandise tickets. He does not care. Revolt. Stop going. Turn your back on him. He's still going to count his coin, but at least your message is heard. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Fans deserve better than that. They do. All right, fast approaching 4 o'clock. Got a lot of comments rolling in. I want to get to those. By the way, there's a football game that is going to be played on Sunday. Russ on Facebook chimes in. Q, why don't you tell us how you really feel? I didn't want Giannis. I wanted us to sign Paul George. I did not want us to sign PG trade for Bynum, sign Alf, or for ×2, not trade Bridges for G League. I don't mind the McCann trade. Q, hoping to move back to Florida ASAP. So while all this will still be on my mom pretending to sports, this is much easier to handle from Clearwater Beach. Ha ha ha. Always enjoy the show and your passion, and you're dead on about the state of sports. Brian chimes in. I thought they should have traded low salary, traded for Bay. Low salary would have been picks more than players, but I guess they think they are healthy. Laugh out loud. Always enjoying the show, Q. Thank you. Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. It really is. So how about this? NFL MVP. Here you go. Stafford edged Drake Maye. So did you guys watch the award show, or, the fact that everyone now is screaming that Drake Maye got robbed of the MVP? I still believe that Stafford deserved the award, but now we get the man behind Justin Herbert's vote. He revealed himself. And it basically cost Drake Maye the MVP. So the MVP voting that crowned Matthew Stafford, who, again, I believe deservingly of the MVP, over Maye, had an interesting vote that kind of played the role of who's going to wear the crown, right? Stafford finished with 366 total points, just ahead of Maye's 361. Stafford received 24 of 50 first place votes. Maye received 23 first place votes. Okay. Josh Allen received 2 first place votes. But it's the last first place vote that has people pretty much up in arms. And I understand exactly why. I really do. And this kind of goes to the conversation that we've had a couple weeks ago about why are we allowing some of these, talking heads, podcasters, content creators, why are we allowing them to have a vote? Okay, so Allen gets 2 first place votes. The last first place vote, the sole vote went to Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, who finished well behind all these quarterbacks I mentioned in the voting. Had the other first place votes gone Maye's way, guess what? Drake Maye could have won the MVP race over Stafford. Now, the man behind this is Sam Monson of the 33rd team. He shared his reason, and I give him credit. He put a face into place. On X, he wrote, I was the Justin Herbert vote. The guy had the worst offensive line. Well, let me read the whole thing. Let me expand this sucker out. The guy had the worst offensive line in the NFL all season, and despite that, he was working miracles in almost every single game. Stafford's O-line became 2/5 as bad as Herbert's for 5 minutes, and he became a turnover howitzer. He embodied value. Okay, so a couple things here. Look at the body of work and the consistency by Stafford. Look at the disparity when you're talking about touchdown throws. What was it, 40 plus? So I respect that this dude decides, I'm going public. I'm going to be the first one on the beach and I'm going to take the shrapnel. No problem. No problem. But I don't have trust in the voting process. Some should not have a vote. They shouldn't. I have votes. I have votes in other sports around other tiers, especially in the fight game, that I vote on. I take that very serious. I don't take it lightly. I don't take it as a joke. I don't take it as a popularity contest. I don't. But I think, again, some of these guys, because you turn on the camera, you turn on the microphone, and they think they embody what the voting process really should be, and they lack credibility. And I like the fact he had the balls to come out, but it might be the worst take of all time. Drake Maye had a brutal offensive line. He got sacked 30 times. Herbert got sacked 22. And Drake Maye, let's be honest, I know they had a soft schedule. He had less offensive talent around him. You can argue. I'm not giving that vote to Herbert. Now, I'm going to stick with Stafford as MVP. 100%. 100%. As far as the game on Sunday, and I'm telling you right now, you guys, you might call me crazy. You might call me crazy, but I think this game is not even going to be close. I don't believe this game is going to be close. I don't. Seattle, I just get this sneaky suspicion they are going to send the house. They are going to send the house defensively come Sunday. I don't think this game is going to be close at all. I don't. I don't. I really don't. I think Seattle's defense is going to make life miserable. Miserable for Drake Maye. And I was looking at some of the prop bets, what's standing out. A lot of it, there is value, a substantial amount of value. A substantial amount of value in Seattle's defense. The trenches, the battle in the trenches is where this game is going to be won or lost. I just don't, this game is not going to be close at all. It's not. It really isn't. I'm trying to find a path to New England winning this football game. And if Drake Maye is under duress, they're in trouble. They are going to be in trouble. And as crazy as this also sounds, I can almost see a scenario where Drake Maye gets sacked 6, 7, 8 times. Because they're relentless. We broke down the game. Lloyd and I broke down the game. We broke down this game, pretty much every which way on BYP. Every which way on BYP. And we both had our reasoning, our rationale behind it. And I kept hearkening back to the battle in the trenches. That's kind of how I was looking at this game. Like the Seattle defense, their front against the O-line. And I don't like that match up. And Drake Maye, playoff time, Maye, it's not like he's putting up these gaudy numbers. And that's why, in my heart of hearts, I tend to believe that by the third quarter, this game might be over. This game might be over. I hope that's not the case. I want it to be a close game. I want it to be a competitive game. I don't see it. I really don't. If Seattle If New England can't run the football, which in essence can neutralize the pass rush of Seattle, it's going to be a long afternoon. It's not like he's lighting the world up. You go to a divisional round win over the Texans. He was 16 to 27 for a $179. He had the 3 touchdowns. He had the pick. He also had 4 fumbles in that game. 2 were lost. AFC Championship game, he didn't do anything. He didn't. He was 10 to 21, under 90 yards. He added 65 in the score. His legs might be the difference to keep New England in this game. That's why I think, he'll rush. Check out his props. But I just don't see him being that big-time playmaker. Matchup for matchup, they don't match up well with Seattle. They just don't. And I'm trying to, just reconcile it in my mind. Okay, how can New England keep this game close? What do they need to do? The O-line has to deal with the Seattle rush, period. If you go back, their rookies, Campbell and Wilson, came back from injuries late in the season. They went back to the starting lineup. They have struggled. Maye has been sacked 5 times in each of the 3 playoff games. That's why I'm telling you right now, don't be shocked if I come on the air Monday and he was sacked 7-8 times in this football game. The pass protection stinks. It stinks. And what does Seattle do best? They get to the quarterback, whether it's the edge, whether it's the linebackers, they get to the quarterback. That's why if you're New England, if you look at some of these props for Maye, passing yards, if they fall behind, he might have to pass him back in the game. But I would sit there and look at Henderson and Stevenson and some of these player props. Now, they've been held in check, but their numbers, their rushing totals, rushing yards are going to be relatively low. And I think that's what's going to happen. They are going to get Drake Maye in 3rd and long, and it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare scenario for him. It really is. If they can't run the football, if they cannot slow down the pass rush, the game's not going to be close at all. It's just not going to be close. And you guys are going to be having a hot toddy, a little smoking joke, getting ready, tweet at me, get ready on a Man Up Monday that, guess what? Yeah, you were right, Q. Game had no juice. No juice. None whatsoever. It wasn't competitive. It's very hard for me. And as much as we want to throw in there the Sam Darnold is going to turn back to Sam Darnold, sure. Sam Darnold throughout his career against the Pats is 0-4. 0-3 as a Jet quarterback, 0-1 with Carolina. But this is a different Sam Darnold. It's a different Sam Darnold. Say what you want. Say I'm being overly inflated. By the way, I brought the Duke back just in case on a Football Friday edition of What the Frig. The Duke had to come out. We had to bring the Duke out. But say what you want. Say what you want. But I just think defensively, Seattle is going to just make it an ugly game. Now, I'll give you some player props as well. But I want to get your thoughts on the game, thoughts, predictions, score, MVP. Give me an X factor as well. We'll get to the comments on the other side. Lloyd's going to join me soon. 4 o'clock hour on a Friday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Quick time out. As always, we're powered by our good friends over at 3 Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea, fresh roasted coffee. Check out the promo code BYP20 for savings. All right, a couple of minutes past 4 o'clock hour. Let's get back to some of the comments as well. Lloyd will join us in a couple moments. Vince says football's over. Luca, sorry, buddy. Check back next season. Q, you're perfectly explaining how I became a Jags fan. Too old for toxic relationships anymore. I got kids, bro. Winning went out the door when teams started selling for $4+ billion. When a life-losing franchise like the Clippers gets sold for billions, the urge to win becomes slightly less. Yeah, but you know, your franchise value goes up when you do win. Now, I'm not saying it goes down when you lose, right? But again, winning cures all, does it not? Luca Brazzi, I would be happy to jump on the Sixers bandwagon if they make a run. I haven't been in person to a game since Iverson. Wow. But you just said it. It's all about the bandwagon, right? Waiting for them to make a run. And that's okay. But it's pretty clear that Josh Harris is pulling the strings. But I also believe the GM is just not being fully transparent. And fans, especially fans of this organization that has never been honest, they deserve truth. They do. They deserve truth. And right now, you're just not getting it. And that's the problem, right? That's the problem. I'm not saying peel back the curtain and show me your entire hand. That's not what I'm suggesting. Nick and Wyford chimes in. Q, what do you think about the new Hall of Fame class? I kind of gave you my, I'm sorry. Fitzgerald, right? Drew Brees. Yeah. Roger Craig, I'm happy for. I went back and I pulled Roger Craig's numbers. And I know people were arguing with me back and forth. Roger Craig was a Hall of Fame running back. He was. Roger Craig was a two-dimensional player. He really, Roger Craig kind of, set that bar, that standard. If you're looking at his career as a whole and you're adding up all the numbers, then there's no reason, you're talking about a player that had almost 13,000 total yards from scrimmage. As a player that was catching the ball out of the backfield and also a back that didn't have a substantial amount of carries throughout the course of his career. He only had a couple seasons where he went over 200 plus carries. His biggest year was 88 with over 300 carries. But Roger Craig had over 8,000 yards rushing, 56 touchdowns. He went over close to 5,000 yards receiving and then added another 17. He had well over 13,000 yards. And again, he also AP Player of the Year, top 5 MVP voting, and Offensive Player of the Year as well. Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer. And Roger Craig was a big-time player in the playoffs too. He was a big-time player. So, yeah, to me, Roger Craig, definitely deserving of the Hall of Fame. Definitely deserving of the Hall of Fame. Yes. Because he did something at the time we never thought was possible. To have a running back over 1,000 yards, right? Receiving and rushing. Now, Kenny Anderson, I felt bad for Kenny Anderson. And, you're kind of on the doorstep. I don't think some of the voters kind of understand and appreciate Ken Anderson's career, the era in which he played. Look, Roger Craig gets in senior committee. Drew Brees, Hall of Famer. Fitzgerald, Hall of Famer. Vinatieri, Hall of Famer. Luke Kuechly, I'm sorry. I don't look at him and say, And oh, by the way, so you're not going to stick in Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, L.C. Greenwood? It's flawed. It's flawed. I never watched a game and I said to myself, no disrespect to Luke Kuechly. He was a very good player. He was a very good player, but I never said to myself, man, we got a game plan around this guy. And I get it. The linebacker position, defensive player of the year, 2013, Associated Press. I understand all that. But his career was also cut short because of the concussions. And he was always hurt. He was always hurt. You do have to factor that in. I don't look at him and say, man, this guy was all world. I just never, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to you know, I don't even think I'm being unfair, to be quite honest with you. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's just not. But when do you sit there and you watch a game and say, this Luke Kuechly, man, this guy's a Hall of Famer? I can give you linebackers who have had 3 times the career of Luke Kuechly, who don't even sniff the Hall of Fame. Carl Banks. You're going to tell me Carl Banks is not a Hall of Famer? You're going to tell me the Killer's not a Hall of Famer? I mean, Carl Banks played the position. I mean, you go watch Carl Banks play. This guy got to the quarterback. This guy picked off quarterbacks. This guy caused fumbles. This guy was a tackling machine. Never even sniffing the Hall of Fame. And I'm not trying to disparage Luke Kuechly. I'm not comparing apples and oranges. But it's, again, the process, the voting process is flawed. It is flawed. We need to recognize that. You have too many guys, too many voters that have the power to vote that have absolutely no friggin' idea what a Hall of Famer is or isn't. They just don't get it. They don't. I'm sorry. There have been so many better Hall of Fame or linebackers that I haven't even gotten a sniff. All right, 4:15, quick timeout. Lloyd's coming up on the other side. All right, welcome back, everyone. Don't forget, we're on Kicks, Rumble, YouTube channel, SR1029 FM. The Game. We dropped a new edition of BYP, Lloyd Vance and myself, when 60 Minutes Hard. Let me get to a couple comments before we pop them up. Kevin C. chimes in Q. Excellent comparison with the Killer and Luke Kuechly. No way he should be sniffing the Hall of Fame. What do we got there? D and Tom's River. Q, I don't have a dog in the fight for this game, haha, like Tom Brady, but I'll tell you this. I do tend to side with you on this one. I don't think this game's going to be remotely close. That's just my opinion. I don't think this game is going to be close. I look for, as we like to say, the defense to rule the day. And we've seen a lot of Super Bowls that got out of hand early and often. And to help us break it down, we welcome in our good friend from Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, the host, Lloyd Vance, SR1029 FM. The Game, kind enough to join me for a couple moments on a Friday edition of On Q. How are you, my friend?
What's going on, Q? How you doing, man?
I'm doing very, very well. And, we got a lot of, feedback from the MVP voting, right, with Stafford and then Drake Maye. I know you and I touched on it a little bit for the new audience just checking us out, 420 on the East Coast. The one vote that went to Herbert, kind of eh. And then you look at some of these Hall of Famers. I'm sorry, like, there are some guys that I believe are not Hall of Fame players. Like, I think the senior committee did an excellent job, right, with a guy like Roger Craig. Ken Anderson, I think Ken Anderson has an uphill battle. I think there are younger voters that just don't understand the era of football in which Ken Anderson played in. And again, Luke Kuechly, I'm not going to take anything away from you, right? I mean, I think it's it's great that you're elected in the Hall of Fame, but if you back me in a corner, I don't believe he is a Hall of Famer. Like I can give you 5, 6, 7, 10 linebackers, a guy like Carl Banks, that are so much more deserving of a player that was constantly concussed, but was a good guy, a pro's pro, a classy kid, a good player, but he doesn't strike me as Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Q. It's tough because you have these biases as some the writers that vote on these things, and let's face it, if somebody's good to somebody in the locker room for a long point of their career, they're going to come forward and state their case in front of the other 50-man panel, and you know they may get votes just because they were a good guy. So it to me, it's all got to factor in when you're looking at someone for the Hall of Fame. You have to look at their longevity. How many years? I say 10 years of greatness. You have to be great for at least 10 years. Uh, Championships help. All pros help. I don't really look at Pro Bowls. I think Pro Bowls with all the alternates and all the BS that goes on with that, you can't really factor that in. But it all has to go into the resume. And Luke Kuechly, very good player, played only about 7 years or so, and you got to say, okay, was there this a goodwill type vote? And some other guys, as you said, they don't get a sniff. And now a lot of these guys that were voting for players that were back in the 80s, the 90s, those guys that covered them, they're stepping out of the game. Like the guys I knew that voted for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, all the guys have stepped away from the committee that I know. They told me the process where they all sit down and it's an argument, you know what I mean? And it's amongst those 50 guys, and there are some people that have an axe to grind and they bring it when they vote.
Listen, Kraft not in, Belichick not in, Eli snubbed again. Brady's probably going to get snubbed his first time around. Um, Matthew Stafford wins the MVP. He's already won a title. He's an MVP now. I find it interesting. Now we want to have the debate: is he top 10 all time? Like, can he just get the award on the shelf first and foremost? Hall of Fame quarterback. We're not going to dispute the credentials, but I do find it interesting once a player like a Matthew Stafford who decides I'm coming back one more year has won a Super Bowl, now regular season MVP. We want to start to have that conversation. Where do we put him on the list of all time greats? I mean, again, it's so subjective, right? To me, you can argue top 10, top 15. To me, it's just subjective. What are you looking for in a quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's in the conversation of modern quarterbacks. He came in at '08, number one overall pick, and his numbers were very good with Detroit. But a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he patted him in garbage time." Him and Megatron. But you know, he got it done in Los Angeles. He won the title, solidified his resume, and now you're talking about the stats. His stats are very good in terms of all-time yards, all-time touchdowns, and he's in this conversation. So, but when he comes up for the Hall of Fame, it's going to be interesting. Q, you have like a Matt Ryan, you have Philip Rivers. I mean, these guys never won anything. Then you have Eli Manning. He won two Super Bowls. So
Yep, tell me.
it's a great conversation. And you'd pull up your bar stool and you kind of have a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
But to me, yeah, Stafford is a Hall of Famer. I don't know about top 10 quarterbacks all time, but it's also you got to factor in with these quarterbacks. It's a passing league now.
Yep.
And back in the day, I talked to some of these old quarterbacks. Their coach told them, "You're not throwing the ball more than 20 times a game." You know what I mean? So it was a running league. It was physical, and let's face it, the rules were slanted, you know, towards the defense. The defense could hammer a guy off the line of scrimmage, whereas now these guys are getting free runs, and the quarterback you can only sack them a certain way. So it's a lot that factors into this.
And Miles Garrett put together a monster season, no doubt. But he has a little Giannis in him, right? Oh, I want to get out. I want to get out. Then they restructure the contract. They pay him. Then he gets a record. Now I want to stay. He's a touch of a friggin' front runner, as we like to say. Which is interesting because speaking of Cleveland, the news came down that Jim Schwartz exits, right? After he lost his coaching bid, which again, not a surprise. Everyone knew that was going to happen. He's got money. He doesn't care about the contract. He wanted to be the head coach of the Browns. They overlooked him, and now he's like, the hell with this.
Yeah, he's a veteran coach. He feels like he's been snubbed. He was hoping to be a retread. He already was a head coach with Detroit Lions, and that didn't really work out. And they went in another direction. But we've talked about this a lot with Jim Haslam and Andrew Barry. They just have no rhyme or reason how they're doing things. You don't want to hold last season against it. But Todd Monken, what did he really do to get this job? So, that was their choice, and now they got to live with it. Schwartz out the door. We know these assistants, their contracts with the team, not with the former staff. So, but it's up to him, and he's a guy that's up there in age. He probably is just like, and I don't need this crap, and I'm not coming back.
Why is Kevin Patullo still in the building with the Philadelphia Eagles? Like, to me, I mean, I feel as though with all the nonsense with the Sixers and all their BS, and the Eagles imploding, if you stick with the Eagles for a moment, why does this guy still have access? Why does he have a key card?
Because his alliance with Nick Sirianni. That's it, Q. All season we said he needs to demote this guy, needs to take away his play calling, and he just would not do it. So they have an alliance together, and we've seen how these alliances have worked out for some of the coaches around the league. About Shanahan, McVay, all the guys off their tree. But Patullo, he's just a bad apple off of Sirianni's tree. He needs to cut bait. You know what I mean? Just
Mm.
walk away from it, because everybody knows that this is a bad situation. That's why they could not fill this OC job, because Sirianni's so stubborn and he wants his hand still in the pot. And then you have ownership. They are like, you know what? Maybe we may need to go another direction, and we're placing this new OC, Sean Mannion, on your staff along with Grizzard coming over from Tampa Bay, and you either work with them or we're going to make some changes. So it's going to be an interesting 2026 season for the Eagles.
So we've got the game on Sunday. I'll go on the record right now. I am overflated. I got the Duke. I brought him out. I didn't bring him out during our very touching edition of BYP, right? Um,
Yeah.
6 years running now. Oh, by the way, well
Wow.
over 13,000 downloads audio wise last week. Just letting everyone know, if you haven't jumped in on BYP on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Podcaster, Podchaser, that's fine. Over 13,000 in a week. Not bad. For an NFL, a credible resource in Lloyd Vance and just a guy who talks behind the mic and myself. But I am overinflated in this Super Bowl. And I'm telling you right now, Mr. Lloyd Vance, by the time the third quarter rolls around, you will text me and say you were correct. This game is a blowout. This game is not going to be close at all. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe it. Might have a little drama early on. It might have a little drama at the half when Bad Bunny is, a little musica en español. Here we go. If you don't know Spanish, that's on you. Go and friggin' purchase Babbel. You got time to do it, Rosetta Stone. But by the third quarter, you're going to be talking about the commercials. Seattle blows out New England.
Notre Dame is up here. I didn't. You and I kind of disagreed. I did pick Seattle, but I think the game's going to be a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I said
I got the scores, by the way.
27-24.
I got the scores. Well, from
Yeah,
what you said earlier on BYP, because I'm going to hold you to those.
hey, I appreciate that. Hold me to it, and we'll see. We've seen a lot of Super Bowls over the years that have been blown out, and it just almost is like an avalanche. Think of what happened with the Chiefs last year. I mean, the Eagles, they just they
Yeah,
couldn't stop the freight train, and,
34
and it was
points.
just
34
yeah, they
points.
got some garbage points at the end, but it was a blowout. And we've seen this a lot in Super Bowls where teams just freeze up in the moment, and somebody the other team just takes advantage of it. So, but I think with these two coaching staffs, you have two pretty well respected coaches, and their coordinators are doing a nice job. That it's going to be a close game. I feel like roster for roster. Yes, the Patriots probably have a little bit less talent, but they brought in a lot of good players this offseason via free agency, Robert Spillane, and then they have, Gonzalez there, who's a very good corner, who I think is going to shadow JSN a lot in this game. So I think we're going to have a pretty good game, and the key thing, obviously, is turnovers. And will your boy Sammy Darnold protect the football?
Listen, he is going to, and you just got the dog all fired up. He is going to protect the football. By the way, Lloyd had 27-24. Lloyd loves the games ending on a field goal. I had 31-17, and I think it's like 24-10, and then it's 31-10, and then you get an oh by the way touchdown late by the Pats. And I gave you my reasoning, and I'll just kind of um, say what we said on BYP. To me, this game comes down to the trenches. It comes down to the trenches, and ultimately, if New England and their offensive line cannot hold their ground against this pass rush, one of my bold predictions is Drake May gets sacked 6, 7 times in this game. I think it's going to be lights out, and Darnold is not going to have to sling it like everyone thinks he is. Just play within yourself, and for the love of God, don't turn the football over.
Yeah, well, he led the NFL this year with most turnovers, 20. We talked about this, 14 interceptions, but I think he's really kind of turned a corner after that the NFC Championship game in terms of just he's cool and calm in the pocket, and his line with Cross and those guys up front have done a nice job keeping Darnold clean. And JSN's playing at a level we haven't seen a receiver in a long time in terms of finding holes in defenses. We talked about Cooper Kupp and his touchdown, and he may contribute, and then Rashid Shaheed blowing the top off of defense with his speed. So the Seattle has a lot they're bringing to the table. I also like their defense, number one in points allowed in the NFL, 17.2 points per game. But the Patriots can score. The Patriots were number two in scoring, averaging almost 29 points per game. But I do think the key is Drake May and Campbell and those guys up front. Can they limit the amount of passes he has?
Mm.
I think 25 times or less, keep him clean in the pocket. He's an efficient passer, led the NFL with 72 completion percentage. But I just feel like his legs may be a factor. Um, but I think in the end, Seattle just has too many playmakers on their defense in terms of the three levels. You have Williams and those guys up front, Jones the fourth, the linebacker, and then I really like Nick Imaniari at the safety position for him. So I think that Seattle will find a way to win this one, and it may be a special teams play that breaks it open.
Ravens fan chimes in. Salute. I agree with the title. Seattle out for blood and revenge. Pete Carroll with the dumbest play call in Super Bowl history. Actually they went back and said it wasn't as bad as people thought. The execution was poor. I still would have ran the football, right? Give it to Marshawn, right? Ball 3-1-6-2. Eagles fan, peekaboo, a little peekaboo with the 6 more weeks of winter. I'm predicting. Oh, talking about. I'm predicting this is the most watched Super Bowl. Why? No parties for this bummer game. Seattle 39, New England 20. Oh, you're going old school Giants versus Denver when the Giants open it up in the third quarter. Interesting. Bad Bunny. Hope it's all in Spanish. 39-20. That's my Super Bowl. There you go. Super Bowl replay. So we're going Giants old school. Not bad, not bad. 39-20. Um, so a couple things. We talked about these player props, and I will say for those that, you and I give out our player props, we kind of dived into it on BYP. For the new listening audience, a couple that we threw out. Drake May under 223 passing yards, minus 112. You believe if New England's down in this game, then he's going to have to throw him back. Uh, I've kind of done different simulations. I think he's right around 213. So I'm actually going to play the under in this one, 223 passing yards. Does he go over and under?
I think he's going to go over that number. It may not be by a large amount, but I think in the end, yeah, he's going to. You had to hit about 230 or more in the Super Bowl to win the game. And the close score that I'm anticipating, I think, yes, he can hit that number. But it's all about the protection scheme. And first and foremost, they're going to go to Stevenson. They're going to go to Henderson. Yeah. And with this game, it's going to be interesting because I really think the prop bets, when you look at them, you got to look at the one we talked about, I'll say, is
Running backs?
Jay,
Oh,
yeah, the running
JSN.
backs. You got it. Who's going to run the football effectively? And Henderson, I was shocked looking at this, and you and I both saw this. His over under, and this is combined rushing and receiving, is 24 and a half,
Yeah.
and that's minus 113. So
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, they really think Stevenson's going to carry the load for the Patriots. I really like Henderson to get more touches than that. And then I think another one we touched
Oh,
on
by the way,
was,
over 18 and
yeah,
a half rushing yards.
yeah,
Henderson.
yeah, that's real light. I mean, I know they went away from him in a championship game in a divisional round, but I think he's going to get more touches than, and he's so explosive. He could probably get that 18, 19 yards on one carry. So
Yeah.
we'll watch that one. Um, Another one I really was looking at was JSN. Obviously, I think he's going to have a huge game this
And
week.
see,
Is there?
I don't. This is where you and
Mhm.
we differ. I think they're going to try to blanket him, and that's why I think Cooper Cuff
Yeah.
can actually you can hit his player prop. I think for the over for receptions, I think that's a decent play.
Yeah, it's something you got to watch because they can shut down the side of the field with, Carlton Davis is a good quality veteran player, and Christian Gonzalez. I mean, he can shadow anybody, so it's going to be a good chess match. But I just think JSN, he's playing so well in terms of this offense. I think he's going to find the holes. His yardage is 94 and a half, so we got to watch that. If they're going to win this game, he definitely has got to get his catches. So expect him at least to get 6, 7 targets in this game minimum.
So 6.5 minus 147. I told you that I like Stevenson anytime touchdown at plus 140. If you're going to play JSN for reception and yards, you might as well throw anytime touchdown for him minus 110. Um, Now, this is where, Darnold, I think he goes under his passing total. But I also think you're going to get an anytime touchdown. I think Sam Darnold might have an opportunity for a rushing touchdown, as crazy as it sounds. But this is where my dark horse plays that I was giving you. So a lot of people believe if Seattle wins this game, and Darnold's 20 of 28, 265, two touchdowns, no picks, plays well, makes a couple big throws, he's going to be the MVP. Okay. So this is my, I guess, against a chalk contrarian. I think we're going to have an opportunity not only for special teams play, we might get our first punt return ever for a score in the Super Bowl. Kickoff returns are different, right? We saw Jennings, Walker, Dixon, the kid from Baltimore after Dixon took it, Howard. So there are two plays, special team wise, that I would actually take a flyer on. And I'm just saying, if you're looking for if you're looking for major ridiculous value, okay? Shaheed, the return specialist, his high value odds to score a touchdown, anytime touchdown, ranges from plus 350 to plus 370. Let's say he has a punt return or a kickoff return for a touchdown, adds another long punt return, then guess what? He might be the MVP. His odds are on another level. So that's something that I think outside the box you might want to take a flyer on because I feel as though everyone's looking at the chalk with Sam Darnold, but you might want to go a different route. So his odds right now, Shaheed's odds are plus 3,000, plus 5,000, 30 to 1, 50 to 1. And I'm telling you right now, what if he gets a long receiving touchdown, a game changing punt return in a game that's low scoring and flips the field? Then guess what? He might be MVP. My other play, sneaky play for MVP in this game is Kenny Walker, plus 700.
No, I like that Rashid Shaheed one pick. Q, we talked about he's an explosive play waiting to happen, whether it's a deep route or it's a punt return, kick return. I really think he's getting to the house, and you see this so often in Super Bowl where one of these special teams return guys just breaks the game open, and I
Exactly.
could see that happening with him. Think about the divisional round; he returned the first kickoff, and the game was over basically. So, yeah, I really like that one, and we're going to be watching to see if they use him in offense or it's just defense. But I think he's a guy you definitely have to count on as X factor. Maybe Matt Collins for New England. One of their receivers is definitely going to have some catches in this game because they're going to have to keep pace for Seattle if my scoring pattern comes into fruition. But Matt Collins over under is 2.5 receptions.
Mhm.
We'll see if he hits that. Stephon Diggs is another player. You got to watch him. And then I know you and I talked about Booty for the Patriots. He definitely could get deep on that secondary because Seattle, they get a little aggressive sometimes, and Imunyari and those guys in the back on awful play action. So there are some opportunities for some of these Patriot guys, but I do believe what you were saying earlier in terms of Walker being a focal point for Seattle, and then them working off of however they're covering JSN.
He gets a couple touchdowns and a buck 10, right? I mean, he's plus 700. JSN plus 500, not a bad play. May plus 230. That's obviously if New England wins the game and he has to throw him and keep him in this game. Darnold has the shortest odds chalk wise, plus um, plus 125. Ravens exposed at New England this week against the run. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. Run it, run. That's why I'm saying everyone's, jumping on Darnold. He does not have to put up gaudy numbers. He just doesn't. He doesn't. You can soften up that New England front and you can run a little bit on them. Then that's going to open up. He distributes the football all over the place. Now, if he's got the jitters and we start to see a couple 3-and-outs and New England's up 3-0, 7-3, 10-3, and Darnold has that pick in the second quarter, now the self-doubt starts to creep in. But I don't believe Seattle is not. I believe Seattle's capable of falling behind and coming back with their offense. I don't believe New England can fall behind 17-3 and come back. Like they know we got to run the ball with our two-headed monster. Because if they're down 17-3, 17-6, and you tell me if New England's down, two scores midway in the second, maybe all of a sudden the game plan changes where now we got to force feed May to make some plays. And to me, that falls right into it favors Seattle's defense. I mean, they can just, pin their ears back and just get him off his spot. Now, I also, did we not bring up his rushing yards and attempts, which is another prop that might be in play, Drake Maye?
Yeah, I think Q was right around eight
Well,
to
his
ten or
rushing,
somewhere around there.
yeah,
Yeah,
his
attempts. Yeah.
yeah, his props for this game, okay, key lines over and under 36 and a half. The rushing attempts is interesting. The rushing attempts is 6.5.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So he's ran for 66 against the Chargers, 65 against the Broncos. Before week 14, the bye, he rarely reached double digit carries. He's done it, I think, out of necessity because he's been getting sacked. So that's not a bad play. Over 6.5, minus 150, anytime touchdown with the legs, plus 250 to 320. Rushing yards versus Sam Darnold right now, May is minus 29.5. When we start to talk about the difference, rushing yards total for May, 36.5. So if you're going over 6, carry 7 times 5 to 6 a scramble, you're right there. So I think that's a play that's worth looking into as well.
Yeah, I like that one. And Josh McDaniels understands that he's got to get May on the edge with these design runs, a lot of read option type plays, and then maybe get the ball to Henderson and Stevenson. But when you look at them and you talk about playing from behind, Q, you're talking about who are the playmakers for the Patriots. Diggs
Yeah.
has come over. He got over 1,000, but you know, other than Henry, they don't have a consistent threat on their offensive side of the football, and I think that's got to factor into which team you're going to pick here because Seattle, they have a lot of weapons on this team, and I think they can score some points pretty quickly.
Lucas says, simulations key, you playing a couple of Madden games? No, that's from CPass, man. That's all the grading stuff that my guy James Hasty gives me, and it breaks down perfectly. Last year, by the way, I took the Eagles on the record. It pained me, but I took the Eagles on the record. You guys remember that? I thought they were going to get to Patrick Mahomes. I didn't think the game was going to be 34-0, a blink of a hat. But I
Yeah,
had the Eagles. But I'm going with Seattle. I thought start to finish, the Rams and Seattle were the two best teams in the NFC. Unfortunately, the 49ers never got off the mat with their injuries. And then in the AFC, look, on the record, I had Washington against Denver. It didn't pan out, right? You had Buffalo and the Eagles, correct?
correct. Yes.
Didn't pan out. But I think Seattle's the best team and defense wins championships. And I just don't see how Drake May is going to be able to keep himself upright, because this offensive line has done a really poor job of keeping him upright. He's been sacked 5 times in each of the last 3 playoff games. And you're talking about Seattle, that has one of the best pass rushing outfits. And you know this. They go like that 4-man edge rotation. And to me, if you're talking about pressure rate, that equaled some of the highest pressure rates in 2025. And they blitzed at the 8th lowest rate. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the 4, they're getting home.
Yeah,
They're getting
Demarcus
home.
Lawrence, that was huge. Getting Demarcus Lawrence coming over
Yeah.
from the Cowboys. That unit from Williams, they can bring pressure, natural pressure, as you're saying, from their front four and then their linebackers. I like Jones the fourth, and then you can Umunyari and Reek Woolen from secondary. They had 47 sacks in the season. Opportunistic defense, and they led the NFL in terms of scoring allowed. They only allowed 17 points per game, number one in the NFL. And then they're opportunistic. 7 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, 18 interceptions. So and don't forget, Drake Maye is a young quarterback. He's not playing in a lot of these big games. You know what I mean? It's just all learning and new to him. And we've seen a lot of young quarterbacks go into these games and kind of they make mistakes. Look at Jimmy G. You think about that. Guys like, we've seen this from a lot of young quarterbacks. So this is a tough situation for him. And yeah, I like Darnold and the team of Seattle in this game.
I do want to ask you, Matt, Seattle fan, chimes in on X. Q, I know you've been um, very high on Sling and Sammy Darnold, as you say, but we know he struggled early on in his career against the Patriots. A, how much stock do you guys put into that? And do you foresee a scenario where if Seattle falls behind, you might get the bad Darnold? So we mentioned this on BYP. 0-3 against the Pats is a Jet quarterback, 0-1 against the Panthers. I don't put anything, I don't read into anything with that, because you got to go back to 2019. He is a different quarterback the last several seasons, right? And as much as people want to harp on the fact that he had home field advantage right there, week 17 against Detroit on Sunday night last season, Sunday Night Football, he spit the bit. Then he spit the bit in the playoffs. He is not that guy anymore. And I know what's going to happen. He might be pedestrian come Sunday. He might be 18 of 32 for a buck 86 and 1 touchdown. As long as he doesn't turn the football over and he makes smart football plays, that's all you can ask. My point is, I'm steering clear of his props, because I feel he doesn't need to shoulder the whole offense, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not putting it all on Sam Darnold's shoulders come Sunday, not when I have this type of running game. So to Matt's point, and you can kind of piggyback
Sure.
on it, I don't envision a seeing ghost Sam Darnold come Sunday night.
Yeah, well, I've always questioned him. And you and I going back all the way to when the playoffs started, I was like, oh, he's Darnold, and he played so bad against the Rams the year before. Sacked 9 times. He was
Which is
frazzled.
fair, which is accurate.
But he has turned the corner. That NFC Championship game, he was cool, calm, efficient. I think we started seeing traces of this in the season. Remember when they beat the Rams on the 2-point conversion? He threw 2 interceptions in that game, but he came back and he had a lot of resiliency. And he's just kind of clicked with Clint Kubiak, who is the offensive coordinator there. 25 of 36, 346, 3 touchdowns in that game against the Rams to win, the conference title. He was sacked 3 times, but he just stayed the course. And most importantly, he's leaning on the guys around him. His offensive line, that's always been kind of a sticking point with Seattle, kind of weak. And, other than Cross, they've had some problems. They brought Zabel in the draft. He's done a nice job. Walker running the football. And then we talk about JSN. He's playing at an extremely high level in terms of receiver position. So I think Darnold, you're going to see the good Sam Darnold in this game.
How many points, in your estimation, how many points do the Patriots need to win this game?
Q, they need to probably score 30 points to
Okay.
win this game because yeah, Seattle can score and they can score quickly.
Okay. So all the Patriot fans that are getting on me, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. You have to just take a step back for a second. You have to look at what the Pats were doing in the regular season. So we know in the regular season, they were able to score points. They were the second highest scoring team in the NFL. They averaged
Yes.
28.8 points per game. Now, is it now in the playoffs? Different animals defensively, that number's dipped to 18 points. And think about this. How many teams have made the Super Bowl over the last 45 years while averaging 18 points per game in the playoffs?
I don't know.
Before this season,
Before this season,
how many
like
teams have made
three. I'll go like three, something like that.
zero?
There we go.
So, to your point, if you can't score more than friggin' 18 points against Seattle, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. Like, to me, it's that simple. I don't see, unless there's a broken, busted play coverage, the screen pass, they're going to have to utilize that. They're going to have to get May rolling out. You might get a fake punt. Here's another thing. Rabel, here's a guy that we've seen him in the past as a player catching some touchdowns, lining up, tackle eligible, doing something outside the box, maybe a fake punt, a fake field, something up their sleeve that's going to have to jumpstart the offense, because I envision a scenario where they're going to go a couple 3-and-outs and you start to panic a little bit. So that's one of the reasons I don't think this game, come the third quarter, we will know if we've got a game, or if you're thinking about what you're doing on Monday, if you're going to work or not. It's just the way I feel it's going to
Yeah.
play out. I've watched Seattle enough to know their defense is absolutely legit. And I'm not taking anything away from New England. If New England gets to Darnold and he has happy feet and he's tap dancing through the tulips, then it might be a long day for Seattle. But he has reinforcements. He can distribute the ball. He can, get it out of the backfield, go to the screen pass, get these running back by committees going. I just like the weapons more, and he can just limit mistakes. Then I like New England and their lack of weapons against the Seattle defense. And that's why I think this game's not going to be close.
Yeah, well, what the Patriots have to do, they got to make it an ugly game, Q.
There you go.
They got to get physical with that Seattle offensive line that I said is improved, but they've had problems in protection in the past, and if they can get to Darnold, be physical with him, first and foremost, they're going to have to shut down Kenneth Walker in that run, and then force Darnold to make all the plays. And we talked about rolling coverage over to JSN, but they had to have a game plan, and they got to execute it. We've seen underdog teams in the past win, and it's because of that physicality and not making mistakes. And so it's going to be a fun test match to watch. I think Vrabel and the Patriots may have something up their sleeves, but in the end, I just think Seattle, player for player, roster for roster, is just a little bit better.
7 Super Bowls since 1970 between an all-pro quarterback, Drake Maye, the NFL's number one scoring defense. By the way, Seattle defense, special teams, please throw a couple of shekels on that, you guys out there, responsibly. Number one scoring defense. The number one scoring defense is 5-1 of those previous 6 matchups. Take it a step further. McDonald defense is 6-0 versus first or second year quarterbacks. The more I think about this, I know we had it hitting the over, and I'm not hedging, but this might be, I'm not going to go say it was what was that really low scoring game? New England and the Rams? Was that 9-3?
Yeah, it was like 13-3.
I'm not going to go that route, but I'm starting to look at the 27-13, even though I said 31-14, or what did I say? 31-17, they pull away. It might be a touch played under. I don't want to hedge, but I'm starting to think now everything I'm saying, I have a feeling that this will be that 31-ish, 10-13 type of game. And what does it say if Darnold wins the MVP? He lights the world on fire. Do we now on Monday say he's an elite quarterback?
No, we say he won the Super Bowl. I don't, we can't. When you say elite,
You just can't, because you can't. You see, your problem.
It's a one day moment. You know what I mean? It's like Nick
but
Foles. You
hold
can't.
on a sec. Yeah, but Jalen Hurts was elite coming into the season based off what he did last year against Kansas City, was he not? You just can't. You can't get past. It's like you can't get past. The slinging Sammy, the red bearded rifleman, right? The off bearded rifleman. You can't get past the ghost. That's all it is.
Nah, well, he led the NFL in turnovers this season too, Q. I mean, he has turned the corner, but this is one last chance for him to prove it. I mean, when you say elite, where are we saying? We put him in the top 10, or where we?
Well, hold on a
he
second. You
I
can't.
can't put him in a conversation with Burrow and Allen and Mahomes and those guys.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
Well,
where are you going to put him?
hold on. Let's just go. Let's just say he wins on Sunday. Forget about the numbers. Okay. Let's
Okay.
go through it real quick. Allen, right? Josh
Hmm.
Allen.
Yep.
Mahomes was hurt. Let's go on the premise he's healthy. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, May, Stafford. You going to throw Hurts in the top 10?
Well, that's where you start having conversations. Is he better than Hurts? Is he better than Dak Prescott?
Oh,
Is he
he's better than Prescott.
okay? Is he better than Jaden Daniels? I know who's injured. I mean,
Yes, right now. Sorry, he
and
is.
then everybody always throws this guy in the mix. And you talked about him getting an MVP vote, who I
Just
think is overrated.
Justin
Yeah,
Herbert.
Herbert. What do you like? Is he
Right now,
better than Herbert?
I take Sam Darnold over Justin Herbert, and I love Justin Herbert and his low flowing locks. You know that. Now, that's my point. Is like Man says, 1 year above average play doesn't make you elite. What more can the man do? And for the love of God, I'm going to try to have to will Seattle to win this game, because if he falters and falls flat on his face, they are going to have a field day. And why can't we appreciate this man for turning around his freaking career when everyone basically kicked him in the nuts?
Well, he's streaky. He had some bad moments this season, and he had some great moments. So we're going to see, is he ready to step up and be that guy, or if he fails, he's going to hear it. You're going to hear it, and everybody say, "Oh, we knew it. We knew he was an imposter." Like the old Scooby Doo. They take off the mask,
Oh,
and
that's a
that's who it
horrible,
was.
horrible, horrible. And you realize it was Mr. Johnson who owned the friggin' hardware store all along.
Yep.
If Darnold wins, you have to put some respect on his name. All the adversity he overcame. Yeah, it's a great story. And by the way, a second-year quarterback taking his team to the Super Bowl, winning 14 games, being in the MVP conversation. Drake Maye is a friggin' stud. He's a stud. Rayball's done a fantastic job. Now, do you think there's any type of distraction, Seattle and Kubiak, knowing that come 11:30 p.m. Sunday, he's taking that Raiders job?
Yeah, you hope he's not looking ahead and to that job. We've seen some coordinators where that's happened, but look at last year. Kellen Moore, he did his job for the Philadelphia Eagles, did a great job, and then he went on to the Saints job. He knew he had it when they were going into the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think Kubiak's a true professional. His father's a former coach, and uh, he'll be ready to go. So and he's really clicked with Darnold. That's the thing. He's been the quarterback whisperer, and we've seen this in all these openings this year. Every team is trying to find that guy that can crack the code with their quarterback, and that's what he's done with Darnold. So yeah, I don't think it's going to factor into it. I think he'll be prepared for this game.
All right, brother. Well, we finally agree on something. I can't. It's very sad. It's not sad that we agree. It's sad that come Monday, it's like, I mean, think about this. Husbands and boyfriends, they have to get reacquainted with their girlfriends, their spouses, maybe their mistresses. I don't know. Like, there's going to be this sadness. This Sunday, it's our last Sunday of football.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
it's
It's
almost like
gone.
we have to pause for reflection. We have to have a moment. We have to just
Yeah,
soak it in.
yeah, it's
Now,
crazy.
now for me, my last Sunday of football ended in Halloween.
Well, that's why I say don't root for the laundry, man. Just root for the games and watch them all, and it makes it more fun. So, but it's sad though. It is the last game, and I guess we'll be talking about the combine and the
Oh,
draft
no,
and
I'm
uh,
cutting back. Listen, after football, we got March Madness. I got to take a little hiatus, man. I 2, 3 days, I'm going max, and then it's 7 straight days, 6 straight days for since September, sprouting out on Q and content
I
and
I
PYT.
guess football never sleeps, like I always say. There's always something to talk about. So, yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about. The free agency market is looking pretty interesting this year, Q. A lot of big names are going to be moving around. Hopefully, we'll see that. And yeah, there'll be something to talk about. But it is sad it's the last game, and then we got that long wait all
Yeah,
the way till July in training camp.
dog days of summer. It's when I have to get a lot of my fishing in. All right, brother. We'll catch you Monday night, 8 to 9. Lloyd
All
Vance's
right,
Inside of
Q.
Football, and Monday as well. Enjoy the game, bro.
Thanks for having me on. See you.
All right, there you have it, my guy, Lloyd Vance. That is a What the Frig Friday take right there, Q. It is. I'm telling you right now. So I gave you guys some good player props. Special teams defensive touchdown. I'll tweet them out. We might bang out a 25-minute on cue, 30-minute on cue tomorrow. But we did load up Back Your Play. Lloyd and I gave you a lot. We did 60 minutes. But again, your thoughts on the game. I don't think it's going to be remotely close. Let me hear from you guys. How do you see it playing out? Score, predictions, MVP, any X factors. A lot of comments rolling in. 5 o'clock straight up on a Football Friday edition of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at SR 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. We'll come back on the other side. Got about 10 to 15 to play with. We'll get to some more of your comments on the game. You can give us your thoughts as well. You can hashtag On Cue on this Friday. I was thinking about this as well. 5 o'clock straight up on the East Coast, a Friday edition of On Cue. A lot of comments rolling in. Appreciate you guys. If you like the content on the YouTube channel, like, comment, and subscribe. We always forget the commercials. And then when we watch them later on in the week, we're like, oh, I don't remember that. A lot of guys are chiming in at the halftime show. If you guys want to watch halftime, you can watch halftime. It's up to you. That's all. It's up to you. But I do believe Seattle wins this game. I like them defensively. A little more money rolling in on Seattle. Obviously, Darnold with the short MVP odds. I'm going special teams route. I'm going a little outside the box. Matty Ice chimes in, Q. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, as you suggest, but I think New England's going to keep it relatively close. I want to see a scenario where Darnold's got the ball down 6 late in the game. That would be a little dicey. I would be locked in. That's must-watch TV. And to Ravens fans' point, you have to appreciate what Darnold has done, because I think a lesser quarterback, a lesser man, would have basically folded. He'd be out of the NFL by now. He'd be out of the NFL. I mean, this guy was he was running scout teams. And then he got in a great situation with San Francisco under Kyle Shanahan. They wanted to re-sign him. He wanted to keep his career going. He was like, maybe I got an opportunity. I'm backing up a rookie. And what happens? The rookie goes down to Minnesota and he lights up the world, and then he cashes in with Seattle. I'll go Seattle by 4 in a thriller. Seattle by 4 in a thriller. Who's the MVP? Who is the MVP? I said this on the record, and I have to keep pulling up my score, and I apologize. I think I said 31. On the record, because Luca Brasi likes to mark the tape, 31-17, Seattle. 31-17, and I gave you a boatload. Shaheed, Jones. Shaheed may be MVP. Punt return, kickoff return, play it. We've never had a punt return and a kickoff return in the same Super Bowl. So you have electrifying players. Who knows? This kid from Seattle, maybe he has a long reception for 40 yards. He has an 85-yard kickoff return. He's got 130 all-purpose yards, and he's the MVP. And there's nothing wrong with taking a flyer with odds like that. A couple bucks at a plus 3,000, a plus 5,000. I'll never tell you what to take out of your pocket. I never, dip my hand in another man's pocket, nor should you. But there's some good prop bets. Drake Maye, I like the under 223 passing yards. I already told you. Kenneth Walker, over 71.5 rushing yards. So you're laying 113 to win back 100. I think he's going to have right around 75 to 83. JSN, over 6.5 receptions. They're going to try to force feed him early. I don't know about the total yards reception. Shahid, if you like the play for MVP, you like a long receiving, a long reception over 22. Stevenson, anytime touchdown, that might be a nice play at plus 140. And then JSN, not a lot of value, minus 110 anytime touchdown. Maybe May scrambling Sam Darnold. But I'm hoping, like, again, so you're going to mark the tape. You're going Pats 28, Seattle 13. Pats 28, Seattle 13. Wow. A little surprised by that. That's kind of a lopsided score. Darnold gets MVP, 2 touchdowns, including game winner. Oh, can you imagine if Sling and Sammy Darnold has to go 80 yards? Can you imagine 80 yards and he sticks in the back of the end zone? Put some shekels on booty to score a touchdown. Hey, nothing wrong with back in the booty. May wins MVP with his legs. I gave you the rushing total for May. I got to pull it up. This is Drake Maye. Let me give you, well, here, we'll go over Drake Maye real quick. Drake Maye, his rushing yards, under 38.5. Now, his rushing attempts, over 6.5, I would play that. But again, if you do the math, he's picking up 6-7 yards. Here's the one problem you have to be very careful when it comes to. You got to be careful when it comes to rushing yards for the quarterback, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if you go back a couple of years ago, what happened in the Super Bowl with Mahomes when he'd had several kneel downs and he went backwards? And I think his total was like 34 and it dropped to like 29. So that's something that you have to be very, very careful. It bit a lot of people in the ass. It did. It bit a lot of people in the ass because that was the game against the, was that the Super Bowl against the Eagles? It might have been was it the Super Bowl against the Eagles or was it the Super Bowl against no, it was the Super Bowl against the 49ers because they were well ahead. If you remember in that game, Patrick Mahomes over under rushing yards opened very low. It was like 27.5. And money came in late. It got bet up to like 37, 36.5. He had 44 yards to final possession. Kansas City's leading 31-21. You got 50-something odd seconds ago. He takes 3 straight kneel downs and he lost 15 yards. So if you bet, it dropped to 29 rushing yards and it cost a ton of money for bettors that are doing player props. So if you believe Seattle is going to win and you want to play May rushing yards, it might get a little dicey for you. That's all I'm saying, especially with the kneel downs. So would take Sling and Sammy or Dart Q. I already told, oh, you're talking overall? I mean, right now, that's kind of it's kind of a loaded question. Dart's not a top 10 quarterback. I'm taking Darnold. Dart's, he's a rookie at a handful of games. But if you're looking around the NFL, Darnold played himself top 10, top 12. Honestly, no one single outcome would surprise me. This has been a crazy year. You're right. The only outcome that would surprise me if New England blew them out, like a 35-3, 35-6. That's surprising. 35-21, Darnold with a couple picks. Q, we told you this is who he is. 28-24, 31-13, 31-17. Not shockers. Hey, DBR handle chimes in. What's going on, brother? That wouldn't surprise me. That would not shock me. A 35-10 New England win and Drake Maye lights up the world. That surprises me. I just don't see. I just don't feel they have the horses. That's all. And if they fall behind early and you need him to throw you back in the game, doesn't that play right into um doesn't that play right into Seattle's hands? I don't think he's going to do that. I think May's going to be under duress a lot. This Super Bowl might give you shades of Tampa against Kansas City a couple years ago, where Mahomes was he was running for his life. He was running for his life. Like that Tampa defense, they did not allow Patrick Mahomes to get settled in, and they got blown out. They got blown out 31-9. Like that game to me, I mean, it just wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. And if you go back, that game going, I kind of see this unfolding. Seattle up 21-6, 21-9 at the half. Tampa Bay was up 21-6. They were up 21-6, and that game wasn't even close. That game was not even close. They had Patrick Mahomes running for his life. He was running for his life in that game. Part of me, I get the sense that Drake Maye is going to be under constant pressure, constant duress. And remember, Kansas City was a 3-point favorite in that game. Patrick Mahomes got sacked 3 times, but you felt it was really 7 times. And he also had to try to throw them back in the game 49 times. Like Brady was 21 of 29. I think he just cracked 200 yards and he had 3 touchdown passes. He didn't have to do much. He didn't have to do anything. Where the heck is Broncos country? Let's ride. I don't know. I don't know. I would love to know Broncos country's thoughts in this game. That's my point under the big light of the biggest game against a very tough defense. May's not going to play well. Well, sometimes you're just under duress and there's nothing you can do. Like, let me hedge it by saying this. I believe he struggles, but I also believe a lot of it has to do with his offensive line. Now, I know you're just tuning in. Early on in the show, we talked a little bit about, the game in the trenches and the path to victory for New England. They need to keep the quarterback upright. They need to neutralize that Seattle pass rush. That front four gets home relatively easy. It's, a lot of that is, if that happens, it's going to be because of the inability of New England's offensive line to contain them. And to your point, he had a terrific season. MVP candidate, 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 picks, 72%. Now, that's another thing. He's got to get the ball out of his hands quickly. You might see a lot of dink and dunk. You might see 4 or 5 yard outs, screen passes that are just as good as a 5-6 yard run. Seattle has to shorten up this game, and they also have to basically keep drive alive. So you have to get into second and third and manageable. And remember, that head coach is aggressive. He'll take some shots. That's another thing to watch. So if it's 10-0 like that, or 13-0 midway through the second, New England can't even cross midfield. And Darnold's in a rhythm. He's in a groove. He's 12 of 13 already for 125 yards. They're up 13-0, 6 to go in the second, and New England's got a 4th and 3 on their own 40, 45. What's the head coach going to do? That is something within itself to watch. But I go back to the offensive line, and I just don't think they're going to be able to hold up. I just don't. And I keep going back to, bringing back some of these young players that were injured and they just haven't played well in the postseason. Campbell and Wilson, they've struggled. It's one of the reasons that Maye has been sacked 5 times in 3 playoff games. He's been sacked 15 times. Now the coaching, it's going to have, it's again, you'll see where these guys are at. It's all going to be told at the beginning of the game. New England needs to establish the run. Seattle's going to stuff it, and that's going to be the end of it. You might be right. Stacking the box. Now try to beat me over the top, and that's going to be an issue. Yeah. I'm not trying to waver and hedge, but that 28-31 10-ish, it's just, I guess we're talking so much about Seattle. in your guys' opinion, what does New England need to do to win this game? Aside from the obvious, and that's turnover. Again, Sam Darnold. No, he is not. No, he is not. That is 100% true. That is definitely true. That guard ain't walking through that door. No, 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 no. Not at all. 327, Patrick Henry High School product, Boston College. Not happening. Not happening. That's where I think the game is going to be won or lost. And I think that's where the game is going to be won for Seattle. For Seattle. And look, I know guys that play for the Patriots. Hank Poteet, Jermaine Wiggins. These guys won before. The Kyle Echols of the world, they won before. I've been texting, going back and forth with these guys. They're high on May. They think that the ground game can be the difference in this game. And they think a lot of people are overselling or underselling, I should say, New England's defense. But I threw it out. New England's offense was great during the regular season, but in the playoffs, they're only scoring 18 points. You think 18 points come Sunday is going to be enough to beat Seattle? Run and play action, loosen up the defense. I don't think I'll be able to. Which app is best for these wagers, Q? The player props, you just got to shop around. BetMGM, DK, FanDuel. You want to catch it. The player props. So this is, I will just say this. If you want to do player props, obviously there's two schools of thought. You can do them prior to, grab them now, okay? Or wait until kickoff, and you just got to basically monitor it to see, especially when it comes to anytime touchdowns, because there can be a time where, it's an in-game live betting and you're seeing the lines move. And DraftKings is notoriously BS for doing this. They try to ice out the bettor, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll pull an obscure player prop with a high value potential, meaning Seattle's going down the field and all of a sudden you're seeing anytime touchdown or next score, and you're seeing JSN, you're seeing Walker, and then below you see Cup at plus 1,500. And then all of a sudden they get inside the 20. Now you're looking for hey man, this is a Cup situation right here, right? This is a JSN situation. Well, let's just go Cup because it's a little more obscure. And that plus 1,500, that plus 1,800, it's nowhere to be found. They took it off the board. Like, you have to be very fast when you're doing that. And this also might be a game where if you want to hedge, New England's down 13-0 early on, then you in-game live bet them and you take them on the money line. You take them to win the game outright. But it's just, you got to be, again, you got to focus, and you're constantly refreshing and seeing what's going on. DK will give you decent lines. FanDuel is fair as well. And you'll get some of the, bet to 10, 150. You'll get a lot of these offers. You can basically throw it on all these different apps, whether it's going to be BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, right? BetQL, which gives you FanDuel sportsbook offers. Shop around a little bit. Let's just say you have a bankroll of $100 for the Super Bowl, and you're not going to kind of blow it on the Gatorade, the color of the Gatorade, or the length of the national anthem, or, the flip of the coin, right? Which many of us do. So now I'm shopping around. All right, I get 5, download it. Boom, I get 25 in free bets. Here we go. Let me go through my wagering requirement. Now let me take 5 different player props, $5 on each. Maybe they give you a limit of max. Here you go. Maybe I got to grab a parlay, which I still think are sucker bets. The reason the odds are so high, the chances of you hitting that are just Like, if you're laying out a three pick parlay, right? And if you really want to make money, if you want to profit, you're not going to do the obvious. You're not going to if you're not going to do, $15 3-player parlay on Kenneth Walker over 71.5, JSN over 6.5, and Stevenson at any time scored plus 140. You're going to get value. Like, fiddle around now. Fiddle around come Sunday at 1:00. use the calculator, see where the best bang for your buck is going to be. Because if I'm betting 5 and I have a chance of winning 15, all right, yeah, plus 10, plus my bet, that's nothing. But if I'm going plus 5, plus 750, and I got a chance to win 38, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, that's more profitable. It makes it a little more exciting, and I'm going to get a higher return on my investment. So if you get those free bets, yeah, go with somebody what I gave you. I would, no matter what, I would play in this game. I would definitely play a Seattle special teams or defensive score. And if you're so high on Darnold reverting back to seeing ghost, then hedge and play New England special teams and or defensive score. I already laid it out. I think the dark horse MVP might be a special teams player. It might. So find value in that. Find value. If you get your 25, your risk-free bet, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. But I wouldn't get too sucked into 7-player parlays. That's a waste of money. It's just a waste of money. That's just, again, my opinion. And we talked about that on Back Your Play, which is up on the YouTube channel. Easiest schedule during the season and playing teams in the playoff. Explain this. Well, look, you have to play who's on the schedule. You have to. You have to play who's on your schedule. And all season long, the argument against Drake Maye and the argument against New England was what? Who have they played? They haven't been challenged. Look at their schedule. It's soft, right? I mean, how in the world did they lose to the Raiders to open up the season? Your guess is as good as mine. But they played the Dolphins twice. They played the Saints and the Titans and the Browns and the Falcons and the Jets. They beat Miami. They beat Buffalo. They were behind. They came back and beat Buffalo. Then they gave up 35. They beat the Ravens, right? And then they blew out the Dolphins. And then you look at the playoffs. Okay. Chargers, that was an ugly game. And the quarterback didn't play particularly well. The Texans, that was beyond an ugly game. And let's just call it for what it is. The Texans couldn't get out of their own way. I mean, they just couldn't get out of their own way. C.J. Stroud was horrible. That's a 21-10 game at the half, and it's 7-3 New England after one quarter. The quarterback threw 4 picks. He was horrible. It's not like Drake Maye was efficient, and because of the 4 picks, shorten up the field, and bang, 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 you turn around, and it's 21-10, and the game's pretty much, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. So the Denver game, again, you're going against a backup quarterback. Kids pretty much coming off the sofa. That was a grinded out game against a really good defense in bad conditions. And the quarterback did nothing. He didn't do anything, but they ran the football for $141. And it's not like they had a big time average of 3.7. So to your point, it's fair. It's fair. But they won these games. They put themselves in position to get to the playoffs, win the East, get to the playoffs, go on the road, beat a Denver team, got them at the right time because of the quarterback situation, and now they're in the Super Bowl. We can't overstate what New England has done just because they had a soft and easy road. You still have to play the games. And I know exactly what you guys are thinking. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop New England, for them to get blown out and see they're frauds. And I get it. I know what you're saying, but man, I'm telling you, their defense is good. I don't see them moving the football. Only chance for the Patriots is to force turnovers when the Rams beat the Seahawks in November. Darnold threw 4 picks. The Rams still only won by 2. Yep. Yeah. And some of those picks were bad picks. And I'm not talking even when they were playing Tampa Bay and the ball bounced off the helmet. Like, that's just unlucky. That's just unlucky. If you get Darnold off his spot and he starts to, do a little tap dancing and he starts to, he's back there and he's just like, he starts tapping the football. He's not decisive with his throws. Then yeah, you're going to have an opportunity to pick him off. The one thing about Sam Darnold, even at this advanced stage of his career, he will still look down a primary receiver. And that's, if you're a Pats fan, then that kind of you're hoping to hear that. You see it on film because you know you got some decent DBs in secondary, guys that can make some plays, some ball hawks. So their defense, to your point, has to keep them in this game. Has to. It has to. If they can't stay within striking distance in the third quarter, if this is not a 21-17 type of game going into the fourth, I just don't see New England winning it. All right, got to start wrapping it up. We got hoops later tonight. By the way, if you guys are up tomorrow around 3, 4 in the morning, we got the semifinal of Warriors Thailand. I'll be on the call, just let you know. Tomorrow, we're going to bang out a half an hour edition of On Cue, clean up a little bit of what we talked about today. For those that missed it, new edition of BYP has been dropped. Check it out on the YouTube channel. You guys are fantastic, hanging in for 2 hours on this What the Frig Friday edition of On Cue. We got the Hall of Fame talk, the MVP talk, Super Bowl talk a little more NBA manana on a Saturday. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, share, like, comment. Also, let your friends know about it. You guys have been wonderful, and I greatly appreciate you sharing out the link. If you subscribe, you'll get the notifications to let you know when we're coming live on the air. You can follow us on social media. As always, 33-17 Hawks. I went 31-13, I believe. I went 31-13. That's not a bad prediction. That's not a bad prediction. We'll carry over on a Saturday. As I said, check out the notifications. We'll pop on live for a few, have a little fun. We got the fights in AC, and then we got the basketball overnights tomorrow. But as always, you guys are fantastic. Don't forget we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with tea, Three Brooks Bourbon, Pliable, and SR 1029 FM, the game. Have a good Friday. I know the weather's supposed to be crappy again tomorrow. It's like a freeze over. I'm telling you, I am so pissed off at that groundhog. Unbelievable. Had the friggin' audacity to see his shadow. 4 more weeks of this nonsense. Unbelievable. Anytime, brother. Appreciate you chiming in. Good stuff as always. Yeah, it's just the groundhog pissed me off. Oh, I got some new shows that I will mention tomorrow as well. All right, subscribe to the channel. You guys have a wonderful Sports Friday. As always, appreciate Lloyd Vance tuning in and chiming in. As always, I don't know if the punker saw the shadow. That's a good question. I have no idea. I mean, they whack-a-mole, whack-a-peek, Punxsutawney Phil, right? Kind of like a, whack-a-rat, right? Can you imagine if we had to rely on the bunker? I mean, we would have like 26 more weeks of winter. They're always seeing their shadow. Scared. And then they get right back in the hole. I will also end with this. How wonderful is it that we're sitting on the cusp of a Super Bowl and the Philadelphia Eagles are on the outside looking in, imploding, losing Stoutland. How about this? Friction with Sirianni. Brown on the trade block, begging the defensive coordinator to come back for 1 more year. Imagine if I had to come on the air all week and deal with the friggin' bunker boys and Tom and Joe D and Sarge. I couldn't deal with it. Luca Brazzi, I couldn't deal with it. All week with the nonsense. All week with the nonsense. Do you remember this time last year? I was miserable. I was absolutely beside myself. I could not take it. I could not. Yes, a true hater. I couldn't take it. It was horrible. I'm not going to lie. I was beside myself. My worst fear was coming true. I was side texting my buddies and I said, we have to just accept the fact that the friggin' Eagles are going to win this game. I just couldn't for the life of me. But now on a Friday, 2 days before the big game, it's been silent. Crickets. Instead, you're worried about an offensive line coach retiring. You're worried about an offensive coordinator that is green as grass, an all-pro wide receiver that wants out, a quarterback that's passive-aggressive, a head coach that has no idea what the hell he's doing. And by the way, you might get all-pro, all-world offensive line tackles and guards that might consider retirement. So yes, on this Friday, I am hating and I am loving it. The unraveling of the Philadelphia Eagles, the nonsense going on with the Philadelphia 76ers and their snake oil salesman of a GM, their in hiding coward of an owner in Josh Harris. I'm sitting back and I'm loving it. I don't even mind if it would snow, a 1,000 feet. I don't care. I'll deal with it. You know why? Because I don't have to deal with the Eagles fans come Sunday. I don't have to worry about my phone blowing up with the little hashtag and little bird and, friggin' Big Dom on the sidelines with his Fugazi headset like he's part of the team throwing in the plays. I don't have to deal with any of that nonsense. Greasing up the pole in South Philly, going Broad Street. No. You know why? Because I got bounced in the first round. Take your L and get out of here. So, yes, I am. Yes, absolutely. I admit it. Yes, I admit it. I absolutely admit it. I don't even know. I mean, it's horrible, and I'm trying to be objective as possible, but for some reason, you guys poked the bear. You poked the bear. I was trying to get out of here in peace on a Friday. Explains the reception issues, intermittent appearances. It's a disgrace that Luca Brasi and the Bronco boys have hidden. It's a disgrace that after the 49ers waxed the Philadelphia Eagles, I didn't hear from Matt. I didn't hear from Robbie. I didn't hear from Tom. I didn't hear from Jody. I didn't hear from friggin' Kevin in Newcastle. I didn't hear from Mark and friggin' Wallingford trying to come at me with his friggin' 1980s Eagles crap. Get out of here. I don't hear that nonsense. I don't want to hear that nonsense. And you know what else? I cannot wait. And maybe I'll say it right now. Maybe I'll disclose it to you guys on February 6th. I cannot wait next year when my little mini Giants helmet matures and blossoms into a full Giant helmet. And we go from 3 wins to 7 wins to 9 wins with the Savior Harbaugh. Imagine how obnoxious I will be if the Giants somehow are good next year and relevant and the Eagles stink. I might lose viewers. It's bound to happen. We know the NFL is cynical. Tom chiming in, Q, I am laughing my ass off. You are a piece of work. Have a good weekend. Hey, I'm not trying to call you out, Tom. I'm not trying to be a piece of work. I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know. That's all. Spite hate Eagles game. Spite hate every Eagles game next year. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, Michael. You want to know why? Because we're above that. We're above that. We're classy. 99% of my listening and viewing audience, they exemplify. They are the definition of class. Then I get that 1%. That 1% that are a bunch of little rats that like to troll and try to disrupt my friggin' peace on a Friday. And I got news for you. My fresh roasted coffee, it's going down smooth. It's going down smooth. I'm going to get my hours in. I'm going to sleep like a baby, knowing that come Sunday, I don't even have to worry about my phone vibrating. There's not going to be any Eagles nonsense. There's not going to be any Eagles fans chiming in, waxing poetic, guaranteeing W's in the first quarter. Who does that? After one drive, who has the balls and audacity to say game over after one series, one play, one drive? Oh. All right. We'll be back on the air tomorrow. You guys have a wonderful Sports Friday. Way to poke a little bit before we get out of here. Back in the saddle tomorrow. Check out the notifications for when we fire off. As always, it's a Friday edition of On Cue. I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe. Be sound. We'll talk to you guys Saturday, mañana. As always, hasta luego in the